want to welcome you back to another edition of the LBCA Coaches Corner. I'm John Parker. I'm head baseball coach at Ouachita Christian. Also a member of the board of directors with the LBCA. We've been doing these LBCA Coaches Corners over the last few weeks, introducing some of these guys to, we hear a lot of names and put a lot of, we're putting some names with some faces and just talking to them and letting you get to know some of these guys. I'm excited to talk with Paul Guerriero today. Paul's the head coach at Neville High School. Been a head coach for quite a few years now. Paul and I have known each other for a long, long time. Actually played Little League baseball together back when we were 10 and 12 years old. I was the 10, he was the 12. He's older than me. So, but anyway, yeah. So, Paul, thank you for joining us today. And if you would, I just want you to, just kind of start out like other coaches have, just kind of talk about your career, kind of where, when you got your start, whether it be if you want to talk about your playing career and then all the way up to now. So I'll just turn it over to you.
All right. My playing career, I played baseball at NLU, which is now ULM, under Coach Lou Santamont. But when I finished up there, I got a call from Bo Clowers, who was over at Claiborne Christian, and I was a head coach like right out of the gate. It was actually before I even got my degree. I was the head baseball coach at Claiborne Christian. It was their second year of the program, and I actually at the end of that year was hired to be the athletic director, head football, and athletic director, and head baseball coach. And I wasn't ready for that at all. But I left before I was able to take that job, and I went to St. Frederick and was an assistant there, and was at St. Frederick for 15 years. Had two stints, but I was there for 15 years and had a 1 year at Ruston High School as a assistant baseball coach in the middle of it, and then now I'm at Neville. Been at Neville, I think this is my 10th year at Neville, and that's pretty much where I'm at. But I was a head football coach for 10 years. I was athletic director. I was a dean of discipline, assistant principal type guy. I've kind of run the whole gamut of all of them and coached pretty much most every major sport.
Well, going back through your coaching career, and obviously you played for Coach Santamont. Was a legendary coach here at NLU, ULM, when they made their name change there. But what about some influences in your career? Just tell us about some people who just had just big influences, and whether it be your coaching style or just whether you wanted to just kind of model your coaching career after those guys.
Well, I've had several different influences. I can tell you the first influence that I had was my dad, and a lot of what I am and who I am is still based off of my dad. He taught me if it's worth doing, it's worth doing right. He taught me a relentless work ethic and a growth mindset are the keys to to mastering anything that you want to do. And he taught me to learn to love the people that you lead, and lead the people you love. And I think that's something that even today that is kind of at the front of my I guess you could say my philosophy. But you mentioned Coach Santamont. Coach Santamont was, I think, the first time that I've had a coach that exhibited the, the old adage that they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of stuff that in playing with him that I learned from him. One of the main things, I guess, one of the main stories was, I was engaged to be married in late May of my last year of eligibility. I don't say right before I graduated because I was one of those 4-year degrees and 5-year kind of guys, or actually maybe 6 years. But I walked in one day and had a note, Guerriero got something for him in my office, and he had a wedding gift. And I mean, that was the first time I'd seen anything, like that or seen out of a coach. But, he influenced me in that regard. But, Ray Gambino, I mean, I could probably give an hour-long talk on how much he's influenced me, and not in baseball, just in the whole, in coaching in general. Guys like Mitch Thomas, he's the first guy I coached baseball with. He was the head coach when I went to St. Frederick, and Mitch taught me the ability to turn competitiveness into a coaching side of it. Actually coming right out of the playing side of it, and not really knowing how to channel the competitiveness. That's something I kind of learned, from Mitch, was how to channel that competitiveness. But Mitch Thomas. I mean, I've had several assistant coaches, and probably the most influential that I've coached with a couple different times, Tim O'Neill, that's our executive director. Tim was a pitching coach for us at St. Frederick. I actually coached with him at Ruston, and in terms of really defining what our program was, the process, the system. Tim was extremely influential in that area, and of course our kids grew up together, and I could tell a lot of stories about O'Neill, but
yeah,
that's another.
That's a whole nother hour-long podcast. We could get a lot of guys on here, and talk about Timo. So it's there's obviously some big names there that you brought about, and I think we can all, there's some names that are very recognizable names that you talked about. And I know all of us have, those type of guys in our career. I consider, for those that are listening or watching, I consider Paul a real close friend. Like I said earlier, I mean, Paul and I have grown, kind of grown up together and known each other a long time here around Monroe. And, I lean on Paul a lot, just to kind of pick his brain, on the baseball side of it, that kind of thing. One of the things that Paul has been really good at is approaching the mental side of the game. He does a phenomenal job with his team, but also he's worked with other teams, whether it be baseball teams or volleyball teams. I've seen you work with volleyball teams before, those type of things. So I'd like for you to talk to us a little bit about, why is it so important to you to understand that mental side and implementing that mental side, even to the reference of, I mean, you are so into the mental side of it that you became a Brian Cain certified coach. And so talk to us a little bit about that mental approach and why it's so important to you.
Well, I mean, and there's a lot of stuff that you mentioned that kind of ties into it, but it goes back to, a lot of people have heard this, but we talk so much about practicing baseball and the field and the ground ball, the throwing, the hitting, but yet you ask most people how much of the game of baseball is mental, and you may get anywhere from 50% to 90% as what people may say. And my question always at that point is, then why has that never worked in your program? If it's such a huge part of it, why has it never worked in your program? And I think that tied in with the fact of, and even in today's day and age, why kids are playing high school baseball. I was looking up some numbers the other day. 7.1% of high school baseball players will play in NCAA baseball. Will play NCAA baseball. And I've always been a big advocate on, let's don't coach the 93% to only do what the 7% is going to do. And there's just a lot more to the game that we can teach as far as lifelong values and way to live with those guys than just the strategy part of it. And I've been a firm believer in in the fact that culture beats strategy.
Mhm.
all the time, and that's something that I've learned over the years. But like you said, I'm a mental performance mastery coach, peak performance certified coach. I'm championship culture certified. I've got a consulting business called Me to We. I mean, and I'll even extend it to all Louisiana coaches. You know that I'll either come speak, do a clinic to either your seniors, coaches, team. I'll do it for free for a T-shirt. You know, if I can help anybody in the state of Louisiana, I'll do it for free right now. But and just you know, if they wanted to contact me, but there's all kinds of stuff that we can do. But it ties into, you know, having the elite mindset. People talk a lot about it. It ties in a lot to like our quality counts program, which I know that we've talked about before. Is, you know, kids today want to know why and how.
Yeah.
And I think if you're going to tell them that you need to be tough mentally, because that's a lot of a catchphrase. A lot of times coaches will say, you need to be a mental toughness. Well, I mean, what is mental toughness?
Yeah.
What is it? You know, can you define it? What is it? You know, and even through, you know, the mental performance master with Brian Kane, he talks about elite mindset, you know, routines, habits of excellence, focus, awareness, um, championship culture, you know, mental imagery, you know, meditation, you know, just having self-control, discipline. There's just, you know, there's basically 10 pillars, but I mean, it can cover, you know, wide variety of stuff. But you know, a lot of that, I guess, is what ties in. But you know, I'm a huge advocate on culture, and I hear at times, you know, people, and I know, you know, culture is a big buzzword, but and people ask me all the time, you know, what's culture? And the best definition I've ever gotten is culture's like a fish aquarium. You know, you can't see it, you don't notice it. Uh, it's not something that calls your attention, but it's like the lifeblood of what's going on. Like, those fish cannot survive without that water in the aquarium. And that's what I think culture's like. And there's a lot of coaches that think, you know, well, we're not going to talk about our culture. To me, I guess the best analogy I can give is like, it's like a jockey that's you know, it's racing a racehorse. Well, when he's got a big lead, he's still popping that crop or that love stick on that horse, even if he's got a lead. And to me, that's what culture is just because you think you're where you need to be, you don't pull off, you don't stop. Just like a jockey doesn't stop whenever he's got a lead. And I think that's something that as having a championship culture that you got to do, that ties into the mental game, and showing kids how the mental game ties in. It all ties back to, even as leaders, we as leaders is, you know, you got to be great at it first, or you have to be able to do it first, and then you have to lead others to do it. Well, you know, even like through our leadership groups and leadership council that we have, is, you know, we teach our that group of kids how to be great leaders so that they can lead the rest of the guys. And I think that's what the mental game is teaching them how to master that type of mental stuff. Because we can talk about it all we want to in a team room or a classroom or a batting cage, but when it gets out there and there's runners on second, third, and they strike out or an umpire makes a bad call, you know, how are they going to react? And that's something that we're really focusing on this year. Is, you know, we're going to talk about every single adversity that they think they could come across, and we're going to go through it. We're going to actually go through it and practice it, and so that they can get used to, here's how I react to that. Because I think that's what kids don't they're not familiar with, and that's why I'm real positive about the mental game, is that you need to prepare these kids to deal with, you know, the type of situations that they're going to have, whether it's good, bad, you know. And it could be body language. You know, we talk a lot about body language, you know, the power of touch. I mean, there's a lot of stuff I could say about that, but just all that ties into the mental game and showing kids how that makes you a better player, which makes us have a better team. And all that ties into it. And just in doing that, I've gotten certifications in different areas. And as I've gotten older, I think I've found I like to coach the coaches a lot too. Like to talk to the coaches and kind of help them, especially young coaches and coaches that aren't used to dealing with the mental game. Because that's the first thing that comes up is you tell if you told a young coach you got to have a great you got to teach the mental game. Okay,
how do I do that?
Yeah. How do I do that? Well, that's what that's what I've done is I've tried to become better at showing them here's exactly what you need to do, and if there's any area that you want to focus on, I'm knowledgeable enough, even though I may not be great at it. I'm knowledgeable enough to show you here's how you need to handle it. But that's kind of the gist of the mental game, and you tell coaches a lot of times the mental game, and they keep saying, yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to, it's the start that stops most people. And
yeah, that's right.
You do, it's the start that stops most people. And I heard somebody talking the other day that was talking about, as human beings, like we sit around, we wait for the feeling to get started, but most of the time you got to get started, and that brings on the feeling, like exercise. Yeah. Most of the time when people go exercise, they're glad they did it. They may not have wanted to do it, but once they did it, they're glad they did it. But anyway, that's kind of a kind of jumped around a little bit, but that's the gist of the mental game and kind of the things that were.
Well, kind of going off of that, I know I've been listening to I listened to the Dugout Chatter, with Jeremy Sheetinger and with Stick and Ball TV and that kind of stuff, and try to listen to his podcast weekly. And the one this week, and I don't know if you've heard it or not, but it's with Coach Brown from Vanderbilt and Alan Yeager. And of course, I mean, if anybody's familiar with Vanderbilt or with Alan Yeager, I mean, mental preparation, that type of thing is huge on those in their two areas. And one of the things that of course, Coach Brown, I think he's the associate head coach, and I'm not sure if he's with pitching or not. I can't remember off the top of my head, but he's talking about that they do it every day, that they do something every day, and they made the statement that a practice plan with the absence of a mental some sort of mental practice is not a complete practice plan. And that hit me. And I mean, I typed it in my phone. I mean, that's because I'll be honest. I mean, that's something that I've struggled with, kind of like what you said. I mean, it's one thing that I struggle with in the mental part of it is I get caught up in, we got to take reps. We got to take reps. We got to get ground balls. We got to get our fungo in. We got to get, a BP in. We got to get, and by the time, it's 5:30 or, whatever, okay, well, it's time to shut down, and I really struggle with that. So how do you implement it, or do you implement it on a daily basis? Is it, once a week, twice a week? How do you go about implementing some sort of mental practice plan?
Well, I mean, the way we're set up is we have Mental Monday every day. Every week we have that Mental Monday, which could go anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a half. But and kind of a lot of people think, and I've had assistant coaches that have come through here and like, golly, man, I mean, the sun's shining outside and hey, it's supposed to rain tomorrow. And well, like these kids, especially in today's, like they've played baseball, man. They've taken ground balls, they've taken cuts and stuff. The things that we got to get great at are the things that we need to be able to do, whether it be in a classroom or whatever. But we're fortunate enough to have a team room. We spend time in there, but we meet kind of like an old football style. We meet every day before practice starts, whether we're going over the practice plan, and we have some type of mental game every day. We talk about it, whether it's reinforcing our core values, our Tiger DNA, whatever it is, and we reinforce that. And and mentioned in the podcast last night, you look at Alan Yeager and what he's he's known for. And most coaches today, that they roll their eyes thinking about it. But I'm telling you that meditation and teaching kids how to get in the moment or get present is something that is sorely missed by high school kids. I mean, we do it. I mean, we'll push tables and chairs out of the way, put them on the ground, or let them get as comfortable as they want to. And we've got several different meditation type baseball meditation, focusing, and it goes down to preparation. But you mentioned a lot of stuff like Sheet said, and one of the things he said, and I've typed it in my phone, was like, even if you go beyond the baseball part, he was talking about the guy saying, thank you, coach, thank you for giving me 15 minutes a day that I can slow down. I don't have to worry about hurrying up to get to this class or studying for this test or hurrying up. And I know I can trust that you're going to keep me safe during this 15 minutes a day that you're allowing me, to just to get stronger and to kind of get my feet back on the ground. And I think that's something in this time, especially in this time and this age of kids, that they need that, they have a different world that they're growing up than what we did.
Absolutely. We'll shift gears for just a second. And, one thing that, I've actually, for those of you listening, I've met with Paul and talked to him about some of these things. But if you ever play Paul and play the Neville Tigers, you can look over their dugouts, and he's not only him, but he's probably got 5 charts going at the same time between him and assistant coaches and players and whoever else he can get a chart with. And he's also going to be, he's one of the best guys that's preparing for an opponent. He's going to try to get charts and different things from different people. And I called him kind of a chart guru, but talk to us about how some of the charts maybe that you implement during games, or, not only implement during a game or keep during a game, but how do you implement some of that analytics, if you want to put it like that, as you prepare for your next opponent or prepare for the, whether it be your team, as in, your quality at bats, those type of things when you're focused on your team, and then things that maybe you do that helps you focus or get prepared for an opponent.
All right. I think, a lot of people talk about charts. So you got coaches a lot of times that'll say, we're not worrying about all that. We're just going to worry about our team. And there's a lot of merit in that for sure. But, one of the things that I learned early on was, the old Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Know thy enemy as you know yourself. And I think he has the quote, if you know your enemy as well as you know yourself, you never have to fear the result of 100 defeats. And if you don't know your enemy as well as yourself, for every victory, you've also suffered a defeat. And that, I'm not going to go into that philosophy. That's why a lot of the times that we do a lot of the stuff that we do. Talk about every battle's won before it's fought. Prepare yourself for glory. If you want the glory, prepare yourself for it. And I think that tied in with the fact that, what's our responsibility as coaches at the very core is to put our kids in position to be the very best and have the very best experience and best chance for success. And that's something that just like I've talked about with my dad, is if you're going to do it right. And I'm going to do it right because that's kind of the way that I've been brought up. But we run all kinds of charts in terms of, like, we'll chart. I do a lot of charting before we play teams. I'll at least try to see a team at least once and possibly more if we can. And really just looking at just small tendencies, and it may be small tendencies, it may be pitch tips, whatever it could be. And being able to convey that stuff to the kids so that they can, because I can know it all we want to, and that does no good until the kids can buy into it. And I think over the past 3 years, kids have really bought into it. And we have a routine where, the starting pitchers and the guys in first, second, and third relief, they get the the spray chart, game plan. How do we pitch? I keep kind of like a master chart, which has all the notes on hitters as we're going. We've got somebody else that's keeping pitch by pitch. We've got Coach Wise, who's calling the pitches, and he's making notes of his own of what he called on the last at bat, what he started off with, and just trying to make sure that we have a knowledge, a base knowledge of what we're doing. But a lot of what you see, like you said, is us tracking our quality account system in terms of quality at bats, what we're doing defensively, freebie wars. And I did a presentation on that, I think, for the LBCA. And I just think knowledge about what you're doing and being able to tie into that and have a direction, it all ties into preparation. If you want to have success, then you need to know. One of the big things that we talk about, and it also goes back to what we were talking about earlier. We talk about a rule of 68 for our pitchers, and in high school baseball, 68% of all balls hit into fair play are outs. So throw strikes.
Yeah.
And everybody heard it when Skip Bertman really pushed that out and talked about it. And so, how do you get kids to believe in that? Well, the way that we did is for the last 7 years, we've broken down every single ball in play, every time that there was an out, and 68% of all balls in fair play in high school baseball are outs. Wow. And we got the numbers, and I've got it tracked for 7 years. I mean, and it's a fact. And, a lot of times you got that coaches that'll talk about, pitching to strike people out. The strikeouts are great. We pitch to contact. We're going to let them get themselves out. Obviously, if it's one of their best hitters, we're not going to let them beat us. We've got a 3-part pattern that we break hitters into just so that we can have consistent language with our kids as far as knowing, what type hitter this is. But it's all about preparation. And and I can tell you what, as much stuff as we do, I have thrown out more stuff because over the last 3 years, I've really gotten real big on the fact that we're not going to chart anything that we do not use. If we don't use that information, we're not charting it just to chart it.
Yeah.
We had several things that we were doing with pitchers, like strike system, and I look up, and we're not even tracking it. I'm like, well, then we're not doing it anymore. We're not wasting the time and having kids track stuff, and we're not paying attention to it, because by not using that information, you're telling kids that you're basically giving them busy work.
Yeah.
But I think if you're charting stuff and you're using it and showing it to the kids, that's one of the things with analytics now that I don't know as much about all the analytics and stuff that they're doing. A lot of the stuff that they're doing right now, as far as to me, I would want somebody to convince me how telling a kid what his bad exit speed velocity was 1 week and the next week, how is that helping him?
Yeah.
I think that stuff is more for coaches and evaluation. You can use it probably more in the off season. But like, to me, a lot of that type of analytics is not something I think that high school kids get a lot of success about, and I know it's not what helps us win games. Mm-hmm. Now we'll track different stuff. I've got the blast system, and we'll track some different things. And and I like it. I just don't know much about it. I don't know
Yeah.
much about it, and honestly, I mean, I can't handle a lot of times the stuff that I'm doing. I don't want to go start chasing more stuff to do, but anyway, that's the kind of stuff that we do. Most of what we do is practical, man. It's real practical.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I've always loved about Tim O'Neill growing up, is that he was great about pinpointing practical growth areas or practical adjustments. Even to this day, I mean, I'll take a video. That's the other thing that we're real big on, is video. You know, we video every single game, and for a ton of different reasons, even to the point of you know, getting exposure for our kids, sending it to college coaches. But you know, I'll send video to Tim of somebody and say, you know, what do you think about this kid? Where you see there's a breakdown or whatever. You know, like year before last, or it may have been in 17. You know, you keep telling kids, you know, we got to stop pulling the outside pitch. Well, again, to me, I think you keep telling them that. Why they don't understand it. We took the game video and broke it down into like 32 swings in a row of us pulling outside pitches and swinging and missing or hitting ground balls to the left side, and like showed it, bang, 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 bang. And then right behind it had the same number of cuts on balls thrown to the outside part of the plate and us hitting the ball where it was pitched. And they could see, and they finally made a connection about, because I think a lot of these kids are you know, they're visual or kinesthetic learners.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know, kids aren't as much audio learners as they were when we grew up. And actually, that's through the me to we. I've got a test that the VAC test that you know, that we give teams that I consult on to kind of to let coaches know, here's what type of learner that you know, that the players are. But I just think from a video perspective, and being able to show that kind of stuff to kids helps them, and that's some areas that we use. And I mean, and honestly, I'll tell you this, and I'm kind of looking forward to it. But like, I mean, if your best pitcher's dad puts his video on the internet, our whole team's watching it. I can promise you that. We're watching it. If you video him and his pickoff move, we're going to have you timed up. We're going to know what your rhythm is, cadence. We're going to have you timed up. I mean, we'll sit up there in the team room with all the chairs out of the way, and we'll practice breaks off of it. And just because we want to take every advantage that we can, you know, it doesn't mean that we win, you know, a ton. We're just trying to look for every edge that we can get.
Well, one thing that just hit on real quick, you mentioned this, you know, I think this is good, and I'm going to ask you about advice for young coaches here in a second, but I think this is good advice for any coach. You were talking about there's a ton of stuff that you've thrown out over the years. And I think, you know, I know I would, you know, be an advocate for this, and I know you will. I mean, there's things that I use that you don't, and vice versa, you know, and we still have, you know, successful programs. I think every program, you know, has to find what fits for them. Right. You know, and I think that, you know, coaches, I mean, there's a ton of stuff that, I mean, that I've talked to Paul about, and, you know, that I'm going to try this year. I've tried in the past, and there's some things that I liked, and I thought it was good for us. And there were some things that, man, it just didn't fit for us, you know, and I think you got to be, like you said, got to be practical and knowing exactly what's going to work for you and your program, and not try to do 50 different things just because we're supposed to do that.
Exactly. And I'm big on that. And you know, it's like you said, I mean, and I'm one of those that, I mean, everything that I've got, I mean, it's an open book. Anybody can call, come visit, whatever. You know, I promise you, most of the stuff I got is not original.
Yeah, exactly.
And, you know, so I'll share whatever I can, but like you said, it goes to the old deal that we learned with Brian Kane, is you can do anything, but you can't do everything.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, and that's one of the big, I guess, pieces of advice that I give young coaches to learn is, you know, you can do anything, but you can't do everything. And knowing what fits and even more specifically, what fits your team that year.
Yeah, it may be a year-to-year thing.
Yeah, knowing what kind of stuff that you need to be doing, and it all changes for us, and it's different for different teams for sure.
The last thing, real quick, and we've been going a little about 30 minutes or so, and I've asked every coach this, especially coaches that I've tried to interview several seasoned coaches. You've been around for 20 plus years as either as an assistant coach, head coach. Like you said earlier, you've been an athletic director, you've been a head football coach for several years. I mean, you've served in administration within the school system, that kind of thing. So looking back in your career, and if you had some coaches that are kind of following that same path, want to get into leadership or whatever the case may be, what kind of advice would you give to young coaches or just coaches that are, just looking to continue this, building their career?
Well, I mean, I can tell you that the number one piece of advice that I would give, I've talked a lot with coaches about, the magic question, what do you wish that you knew then that you know now? And I would tell young coaches, love your players, man, fight for them and love them. The things that they're doing are huge, man. We got a responsibility that we can help shape and mold like their destiny, everything for the rest of their life. We've got that opportunity to do that. When they're grown and they're even when they're dealing with their own kids, it's going to be our voice that they're hearing in their head a lot of times. I was watching a show the other day and a guy talked about it, and you hear it all the time. I keep hearing my high school coach saying this. Well, what do you want that to be? Because you see a lot of young coaches, they want to be tough. They want to, kind of use the old school approach. And hey, there's some kids that can handle that, some can't. And I would advise those young coaches to learn who can handle it, who can't handle it. Hold them accountable. I would say, definitely hold them accountable, but learn to love your players. And I'll tell you another, don't be afraid to tell them. I'll tell our players now, and I can promise you the young Paul Guerriero would have never, ever even thought about that. I'm ashamed of the coach that I was starting out. I mean, honestly, I've told people before, I wish I could go back, if it was feasible enough and apologize to all the coaches that I coached as a young coach, because I did do a lot of that type stuff, and not realizing what it is that they're doing for you. You just always have to keep in mind. I heard a guy say this. Always keep in mind that the ones that are messed up the most may have the deepest, best treasures within them, and they may be your first player. They may be your last player to make the cut. You got to love them all the same. And just knowing that those guys are pouring a lot into what you're doing, and whether you want it or not, a lot of times those guys are doing it a lot of times to please you. We try to tell our guys, you're not looking to please me, but a lot of times that's what a lot of them
really
are, especially if they have a troubled home life. But I think that greatness, teaching them what greatness is, teaching them. I think young coaches really need to, like I said, a culture over strategy. Like one of the things that I didn't like about me as a young coach is it's almost like you want people to know that you know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it's all about how you treat people, and it's about relationships. It's not about whether you know how to double cut. It's not whether you know whatever about hitting. As long as you can build those relationships and bring those kids up, and like I said, loving them, and loving all of them the same. I guess I mean I could go on and on about different stuff, but that's probably the most important part.
Absolutely, I think that every coach I've talked to so far in this LBCA Coaches Corner. And, the more I listen to podcasts and, read books and things like that, I mean, it's really about the relationships, and, kind of like you. I mean, I wish I could go back several years and apologize to some of these kids that I've coached that I don't think I love very well, or they maybe not, they didn't think maybe I loved them very well. And if they don't think the perception is reality a lot of times. That means I didn't do a real good job of making sure they knew that. And I totally agree with you.
Like you said, there's so much about it. And I would tell young coaches, like even so, talking about greatness, I can't remember who it was. I heard it said, greatness is remembering in the dark what God showed you in the light.
Yeah.
Being able to, when you see a lot of the positive stuff, like you talked about putting stuff in your phone, man, like my phone's a treasure trove. I promise you, type stuff into your phone so that when it does get tough, you can you have something kind of to fall back on and to help you remember. And like you said, I mean, I can tell you that I'm really a big audiobook type guy, but podcasts, reading books, there are so many books out there. And I know guys don't like to read, but I promise you that there's a lot of stuff that you can learn and apply to your to your teams, and even more important, to your life.
Yes, absolutely. I'll close on this in just a second. I wasn't a reader up until a couple of years ago, and I listened to something, and one of the things, as I was taking over an athletic director's position here a couple of years ago, one of the podcasts I listened to or something, he talked about leaders read, leaders want to learn. And man, that hit me square between the eyes. It's like, I don't read. I don't read books or whatever, but I started to, and now I've developed a passion kind of to read, and to get my hands on things like that I can hopefully can help me grow as number one, as a Christian, as a coach, as a dad, as a father. As a husband, whatever the case may be. So the last quote, and I heard this just recently, and you've talked all around this. But the last quote that I'll kind of share and leave you with is, coaches, I think that we all need to make sure that our kids understand that my love for them is not predicated on their playing time or how they're going to produce for me as a head coach. Yes, we want to win. We're going to win. We tell them that. We're going to prepare. We're going to do everything we can. But my love for them is not, they don't have to produce in order for me to love them. And I think that's one thing that's another kind of a quote that kind of hit me between the eyes, is that I need to do a better job of making sure those kids know, that just because if they don't produce for me, I still love them. And I want to build that relationship with them. So, Paul,
I read that quote just this morning.
Yeah.
I read that quote just this morning.
Yeah.
That's
yeah. So, well, Paul, I appreciate you, brother. And, and I'll tell you, because I don't, like I told, I love you like a brother. We've known each other for 35 plus years now. And, and I consider you a close friend, but consider you kind of also a mentor, because you did coach me. Remember at one time you did coach me. I did. And, in Dixie Major Ball,
People probably don't realize that because I'm the younger looking.
Younger looking. Yes, maybe. Yeah. But, anyway, I really appreciate you sitting down with us and talking with us and sharing your knowledge. And I know that there's some guys out there that's going to take some of this, and hopefully they'll contact you. And if you want to contact Paul, get in touch with me, or if you don't have his cell phone number, or, you can get in touch with me or get in touch with Coach O'Neill or whoever. But we'll be happy to get in touch with Paul for you and share that knowledge. So appreciate you sitting down with us again, Paul, and we'll catch up with everybody next time on the LBCA Coaches Corner.
All right. Hey, and last thing is, we're going to turn the tables and interview Coach Parker here in the next few weeks. So
yeah, I don't know about all that. There won't be. That'll be a short segment, I promise you. So, all right, thanks, Paul. Appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you.
All right, bye.